In this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 biggest lessons that I learned in Bali over the last 30 days. So you guys can see I'm not in Bali anymore. I'm in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Petronas Towers right behind me. Beautiful fucking view. But in the last 30 days, I probably learned more in Bali from a wider array of experiences than the 100,000 plus dollars that I've spent on various different mentors and courses, things that relate to business and things that relate to life. And I've been to 20 countries in the last calendar year now. And what I will say is that Bali has probably been my favorite place to live. The locals were fucking awesome. Even the foreigners were great compared to a place like Bangkok, for example. But let's get into the 5 lessons. The first one is that the networking effect is very real. So I'm going to tell a couple quick stories about people that I met. When I first went to Bali, I didn't know what to expect. I had just seen videos, memes online saying, hey, everyone that's really good looking universally agreed to come here. I thought, okay, there's a lot of like online business owners there. I didn't realize to what extent. I mean, to start, I'll start with an example that's not actually in my niche, in my space. There's a travel vlogger, Harry Jagger. I've been following him since like COVID time. And he's got 3 million subscribers on YouTube. I'm sitting at the cafe, open house cafe. I went there twice a day. And he walks right in. He walks right in, and I'm like, dude, sit down right here. And I'm talking to him. I'm talking to his other friend, Rob, who became a good friend of mine. He's also a travel vlogger. And he was just a normal fucking dude. And I became friends with him just like that. Boom. Right? Now we're friends on Instagram. We talk to each other. We like each other's shit. And people could see that, right? When they follow me, a lot of people follow him. Boom. And that's a lesson I'll get to later. Another example, I was on Komodo Island. And there's a sales coach I've been following for a long time. And I'm in the airport. And I look up and I see this big group of people, kind of like a bunch of good looking people as well. And I'm like, that guy looks like the guys whose content I watch every single day on sales. That's weird, right? This is a very remote place. There's not a lot of people here. 2 gates at the airport and 1 terminal. And I walk up to him. I'm like, are you Orlando? And he's like, do I know you? Like, he looks like so confused, like very rattled, right? I'm like, you're the guy that makes the sales content, right? I get your shit all the time. And he's like, oh, thank you. He looks like a little tired, a little confused, whatever. But I ended up, becoming good friends with him, building a relationship with him. It was a great time. Brian Nayugan, another guy, right? So I've been following his personal branding content for the last year or so. I just knew him as a name in the space. I didn't really know exactly what he did or where he was at most times, but I went to a beach club with this fucking girl, and I was with her, group of friends, and we went to this kind of classier place after that, right down the street. And I'm kind of bored. I'm on my phone, on my IG stories, and I, see Brian's account. I click on it, and I'm like, this place looks familiar. I look up, I look down, I look up again. I'm like, I think we're in the same place. Like, that's weird. Right? So I stand up, I kind of meander around, and I see him like filming with these like 3 or 4 beautiful girls, models around him. He walks right by me, and I stop him. I'm like, yo, are you the Brian guy? And he's like, yeah, what's up, dude? And I tell him, I was just looking at my IG stories. You're in the same place as me. So I built a relationship with him. I went out to a dinner with him. And other people in the space, like a dinner he was hosting. And that was a great relationship that was built as well. I also went to a mastermind. So when I met Orlando, I had found out shortly after that one of the people that I met next to him was this guy named Tom Strickland. He organizes luxury trips and also kind of like an entrepreneur founders group in Bali. So, Tom was great. He was hosting a mastermind that Orlando was also going to be a part of. He invited me to that mastermind at their awesome villa. It's like 8 or 9 suites, something like that. I get there, and who sits 2 seats next to me at the breakfast that we were doing is William Brown. If you guys don't know who William Brown is, he did $1.2 million last month in the consulting space. And he, other than Sam Ovens and Hermosi, he was the only other guy to exit his company for, I think it was 8 figures. It was 16 million, a trading offer that he had. And then he recently, a year and a half ago, started this consulting offer. And he's blown up on YouTube and recently got his YouTube actually shut down. I even bought his book from a year and a half ago. So I got to speak to him, right? But what this does to your brain when you see all these people, and it happens everywhere in Bali, all you have to do is go out and be social, and you'll be introduced to different people, and everyone will somehow know each other. It's that if anyone else is doing it, So can you. That's the biggest lesson. I remember Derrick Rose was being interviewed in a press conference post game. He was the MVP of the league eventually. And someone asked him a question relating to that. And he said, I don't understand. Like, I don't see, like, if anyone else ever became MVP that was in the league, like, why can't I do that? And that's the mindset that you start to establish when you see other people that just at face value are no more impressive than you. Their IQ isn't significantly higher. If anything, they're more retarded. That's motivating, you know? Now, you have to use the networking effect, though, in the right way, because you can't just network with people. You can't just be friends with people. And that was kind of a dilemma that I had. So we were at the mastermind, and there's a guy that speaks. His entire talk was about public speaking, storytelling, and how to provide value to people that you wouldn't think you could provide value to, people that are making a lot of money that you're not even close to in that regard. And we got separated into 3 breakout groups during lunch, and he happened to be in my group, actually. His name was Piero. He's a cool guy. And I said, hey, here's my dilemma, guys. I've been in Bali, and I haven't gotten much work done this month, but I've met some awesome people. I've realized that I have the capacity to get into rooms that I otherwise wouldn't really belong in, and I have that ability. But on the other side, I'm thinking about just going to Medellin in Colombia and locking myself in a room for the next month to do all these inputs. And Piero said something really interesting. He told me, and I'll never forget this. He said, look, like, your superpower is very clearly not locking yourself in a room, right? Like, you have a superpower that most people don't have. Other people have superpowers that you don't have. So what if you're meeting all these great entrepreneurs? It's very convenient to do so in Canggu, in Bali, right? That's where everyone is. What if you just integrated the inputs that you have to do into what you're already doing? Because that's going to be the best content anyways, that very organic, raw style. And he used the example. Look at the conversation we're having right now. What if you were filming this? Imagine the value that people could get from that. And he was absolutely right. So I realized, one, that I should be going back to Bali in June from America, from a wedding I'm going to, a close friend of mine. And, he really opened up my mind to, okay, I have to use the network that I have now to create this content, to be associated with these people, and to allow that to progress me. So that's the first thing. Second lesson is the excess that you're able to live with reveals what actually matters to you. So probably the first 2 weeks or so in Bali, everything is so cheap. Everything is so accessible. You could live with such abundance. You could have access to whatever you want. So the parties, I'm not into like drugs or drinking really too much, especially my medical issue. I can't drink. Women, the accessibility of like everything that like you think you could ever want is right there. And, I did that and I had my fun, but then you realize like, oh, is this it? Right? Because you see that I kind of was able to see how this social environment was from like the point of view of like a peasant or a civilian. So usually when I would go out, I'd be with other entrepreneurs. We'd get tables or whatever. And I went out with one of my friends that was visiting from the States, and we just went into clubs just buying, tickets or whatever, like not tables. And, I had seen these, pretty good looking girls reject like 10 very good looking guys and make their way over to a table of like old ass fucking ugly dudes, but that had money and they knew exactly what they were after. And I realized, is this the environment I really want to be in? Because that epitomized everything that I kind of had experienced that night from that point of view. And I said, like, is this it? Like, am I just going to be here, like not focusing on my business and doing things like this? And then I realized, like, whether you want to be the best in that environment at the highest social status there or not, the answer is still the same as to what you have to do. And it's that you need to work on the things that you find the most meaning in. And it definitely fucking wasn't that. So Bali definitely taught me that lesson, because I don't think I would have had the accessibility in other areas to learn that lesson. So Bali's kind of this great filtration system of the type of people that are there, the types of experiences that you could have. And I realized that I learned that the hard way. Now, number 3 is marketing by association is not just a theory, right? Hermosi talks about this. People will buy from you because you're around people that they already know, like, and trust. So what's like the easiest way to get people to know, like, and trust you? It's to be around people that other people know, like, and trust. So let's think about like the psychology for a second of if someone comes to my page, right? And they're trying to see, does this guy know what he's talking about? Is he fucking authority in this space, or is he a bullshitter? Is he just a yapper, a larper? And if you come to my page right now, you can see that I'm followed by a lot of bigger names, people with larger personal brands. So if you're following anyone in the space, I have lots of people with 50,000 followers, 100,000 followers, 300,000 followers, 700,000 followers, all following me. And, if you are watching this, surely you are following someone in the space that's a big name now that's following me. And that's going to have a tremendous, profound effect on your perception of me. So that's huge, right? Now, this goes one step further because when you're actually seen physically associating with these people, not just in person, but documenting that content, right? I have B-roll now of me with William Brown, me with Orlando Santucci in the same frame. I have B-roll of me out at night with other guys that are, thriving in their given industries. So once, you can make content providing value to those people. And when you do that, right, people are going to perceive you as an authority without a doubt. Okay, so marketing and selling by association is king. And I didn't realize that prior because I knew that in theory, but I didn't realize that because I was in an environment where no one else was even in the online space. I didn't have access to these people. And then when I got there, I realized, oh, wow, I could actually provide value to these people. I have conversations about business with them. Like, I could just film this and then pretty much have others perceive me as more trustworthy because they trust them. So it's basically, you could call it growth hacking, trust hacking. Let's call it trust hacking. You could do that. Like, people talk about how there's like such a lack of trust in today's market, how it's a trust recession, which I think it's a trust crash. I don't think it's coming back unless you actually do something. That's the default setting. Be around other people that other people trust. Simple as that. Now, the fourth lesson I realize is that you could get clients in person. Now, I became someone's client in person actually back in January. So my creative director, Darius Chung, I'm probably butchering his fucking name. I had followed him because he had mutuals of people that I thought, oh, they're doing well in the industry. So it goes back to the last lesson. And he had seen that I was in Dubai and he happened to be flying in there for client work. And he said, hey, bro, like, are you in Dubai right now? I said, yeah. He said, oh, let's meet up for like I think it was like a brunch or something at a cafe just outside the Burj Khalifa in the Dubai Mall. And, just the conversation that we had, I was like, okay, I could clearly see you know what the fuck you're doing. Like, how much is it? And I just, paid him, right? Right there. So you could develop so much trust with a person in person, and you could get clients in person. It doesn't have to all be online. And guess what? It's more profitable when you get clients in person too. When I was, back in my prior relationship with my fiance that I'm no longer with, I didn't realize the possibility of I could get clients in person because I was just in one room at her house every single day, right? Back when I didn't have the perspective on the world and how the world of online business works like I do now. Now, I want to go back to that guy Piero that I was talking about because he said, look, dude, like your superpower is the ability to speak to people in person. You could close online, but you could close in person. And not just in getting clients, but also in getting gigs at masterminds, being able to, showcase that you're an authority there. And then at those given masterminds in these environments, you can get fucking clients. So you have the ability to do that. You just have to hone in on that and realize that that's a possibility. So once he told me that, he also told me something else very interesting. He drawed on a personal example. He said, you saw William Brown is here? He's like, yeah, he's here because he's friends with me. And 6 months ago or a year ago, I can't remember the exact date, I did a mastermind. I did his mastermind. I spoke at his mastermind. My business wasn't in an amazing spot. This guy is doing $1 million a month. He wasn't even close to that. He's like, to William Brown, I should have just been a nobody. But because of my unique skill set to provide value to him in another way, he trusted me enough to speak at his mastermind. And I did. And that got me clients. And that gave me authority to come speak at events like this. So that got me thinking a lot, and it helped me realize that you have to put yourself in the right rooms, right? So influencer gyms, run clubs, restaurants that people are at. And if we zoom out even more, the country and city that you're in. Because if I just stayed in fucking the middle of New Jersey, it would have taken me my whole life to find just what the average person was in Bali in terms of what they were doing. People with the same mindset, people that worked in the same types of online businesses, right? Because out of 400 people in my graduating class, I am the only person in my school that does what the fuck that I do. But then I went all the way to Bali, 26 hours, and I found everyone else that does that too. So you have to get yourself in the right rooms, and business happens organically. Now, I don't want to give too many tactics on how to do that in this video, but it is a skill set, right? I was invited because I went up to Orlando on Komodo Island. I met his friend Tom Strickland. Tom Strickland invited me out to his founders dinner with many other successful founders in the space. Because I was able to speak to Tom and provide value to him there, just in terms of the type of person I was, the cool experiences that I had, my ability to articulate myself cleanly and eloquently. He was willing to bring me into other rooms, right? He was willing to invite me to that mastermind. He was willing to invite me out that night to the table they had bought, but I don't think everyone was invited to that, honestly. Also, because I went up to the Brian Nayugan guy, I was invited to his founders dinner that he was hosting. There's all these other founders that I met there, all these beautiful models. It was awesome, right? But I wouldn't have been invited to that unless I had the audacity to go up and speak to him in the first place as someone with a much smaller brand and speak to him on a human level and provide value in another way. So that's lesson number 4. Number 5 is teaming up is the fastest path to build wealth. So when I was at Tom Strickland's founder dinner, 30 minutes later, these two guys roll up, Bennett and Brody. And I think their content guy, Connell and Jesse were there as well. But they pull up, they're these American and Canadian guys, and I hit it off with them right away. The next night I go to Brian Nayugan's dinner, they're there as well. So I'm already having a great time with these guys. We're having great conversations about, a wide array of topics. And they say, hey, you got to swing by our villa. Like, we have an AI, creators group at our villa. It's like 8 suites. It's massive. You got to swing by. So, I go by the next day. I work the entire day there. I get a bunch of B-roll. I make sure that I get a lot of work done. I continue to foster those relationships. And what's interesting, just as a side note, because it speaks to the lessons that I've been talking about in this video, is that day by day, people would just spawn in there. Like, oh shit, there's is that a bat or a butterfly? It's a crazy butterfly, I think, outside my place. Anyways, I get distracted easily. So people would just spawn in at these villas. Beautiful girls, other entrepreneurs, and some of these people I would have just met when I went out at night at the cafe that I ate lunch and dinner at every single day. And, I guess the point of this all is that I realized how all of these AI guys were teaming up together to speak business nonstop, right? So, and to grow, right, in their respective businesses. I remember I had to realize this thought when I was in the hot tub, just chilling, right? I could have been chilling at my own villa in my pool or hot tub, or I could have been chilling in the hot tub with the other people that run businesses that are not that far off from mine. And I'm talking about business the entire time. So here's 8 guys, all with unique skill sets, constantly talking about business, having other people come in, constantly talking about business. And there's something called the winner effect, right? And it's that if you're surrounded by enough winners, eventually you become a winner too. In the same way, and everyone will probably nod their head yes, But they never do it. And it's, I say, if you're a sum of your closest 5 friends, right? This fucking butterfly, man, it's scaring me. So if you have 5 friends that are stupid, you'll be the sixth. If you have 5 friends that are smart, you'll be the sixth. If you have 5 friends that are crushing it in online business, you will be the sixth, right? So you could pool assets together, you could pool money together to accumulate assets, such as the villa that they were renting there. That allows you to feed back into your content, back into your business. It also motivates you in what you're doing. They're all living together, they're speaking together, they're compounding in their knowledge and their wealth. And that allows them to win. And if someone's working alone, just locking themselves in a room versus working their asses off around 8 other successful entrepreneurs, the person that's surrounded by the 8 entrepreneurs will grow 8 times as fast because he's learning. If he's smart, he's learning from all of the mistakes and the lessons learned from all of his friends. Now, the real lesson underneath this is that it's easier to change your environment than it is to change yourself, right? So Arnold Schwarzenegger is a great example of this because he went from a small town bodybuilder in Vienna, and he booked a one-way ticket with all of his savings to LA, to Venice Beach, right? And all he knew is that he was going to work out at Gold's Gym, Venice Beach. He had no plan B, but he knew that if he was surrounded by the best bodybuilders in the world, that he would become the best bodybuilder in the world. That's all he knew. He didn't know how he was going to, sleep. He didn't know where he was going to sleep, how he was going to pay rent. He actually slept on, I think, Joe Weider's couch. That's a side note. He didn't know how he was going to afford anything. He just knew he was going to work out with the best bodybuilders in the world, and that environment was going to get him to win the Mr. Olympia, which he fucking did 7 times. In Genesis 12, God told Abraham something along the lines of get up from what you know, from what you're, from your family and whatnot, and go into the world, right? And I'm going to bless a nation through you in doing so. Something along those lines. I have it written right here. I could say leave your country, your people, your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. So God didn't give him a roadmap, right? He gave him the direction, right? Once you understand the direction, the roadmap will start to fall into place. But the only way you could build a roadmap is if you know where you're going. So that means you have to reverse engineer and work backwards from the exact archetype of the person that you want to be. So that's the move, okay? Change your environment to reflect exactly who you want to become, and then you will turn into that person. For me, thus far, that has been Bali. Okay, so hopefully these lessons were helpful because there were so many different takeaways as it related to life, tactically within my business, which I'll probably get to for sure in other videos. But these were the 5 largest shifts that I've had mentally. And you know what they say, if you don't change your mind at least once per year, you're doing something wrong. Well, I changed my mind on all 5 of these things, or at least they became a lot more apparent to me. So look, I want to say this. If you guys found this helpful, you could book a call in with me down below, and I'll go over your entire funnel, your Instagram page, see where you are leaking the most in your funnel. And, feel free, you could follow me, message me on Instagram, DM me, benji.tucker1, BENJI .TUCKER1. You can message me for, any resource, any questions you have, or, message me to, get started on your journey where I could audit your funnel. So until next time.